All right, hello everyone. Welcome back, hopefully, to the Fact of the Matter podcast. Today we're going to react to the UFC 298 card, which was very exciting. I'm Goose, and I'm joined by my co-hosts. Uh,
Jackson Clausen.
That was a pretty long pause there. I was scared
yeah,
that you were me to
great
say
timing.
introduce myself first. And I am a returning fellow, Taco.
Hell yeah,
Been MIA for a bit, but it's nice to be back, fellas.
returning fellow.
Nice,
There you go. That's
nice
your
to
title.
have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and we have a very exciting card to talk about. Kind of sad one too, but I don't know. Let's not beat around the bush and get right into Alex Volkanovski against Ilia Topuria.
Straight in.
This fight was kind of heartbreaking for all the Volkanovski fans and a lot of the big fans.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people who were, I'm going to use the word cope around this fight. Going into it, I knew it was going to be a hard fight for Volk. I did know that Ilia Topuria had power, and I thought it would mess him up a little bit. But Volk, I think he went in with the right game plan. It's just when you get to backed against the fence like that, and you've got nowhere to run really, and Topuria landed that perfect right cross to the chin. It's gonna knock that punch might have knocked Max Holloway out.
Ooh,
But looking at fans' reactions, I will say people are jumping the gun on him. I see people saying that he should retire. I don't necessarily think that. I think we should see how he does next time. I don't think this is an unwinnable fight for Volk. I wouldn't be shocked if he came back and won.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, interesting. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the first round as well was kind of just like really sad because like Volk was doing very well. Like I've got stats here, like all the significant strikes are in his favor. He was looking really good. He was looking really slick and quick. I think though in the first round, I was getting a bit worried already when Ilia would start pushing forward and Volk would be on the fence. There was a moment on there was when I would get a bit scared because Volk wouldn't look as sharp and as quick to be first in the exchanges as like before when they'll be in the center of the octagon. And I kind of did kind of a bit foreshadow like later in the second round, like when he did lose was when he did get pressed up on the cage. But man, as an Aussie man, that was just that was a bit of a depressing one. And like I was on my high after the Rob thing that we'll probably talk about later. And that one kind of got me down after hearing Down Under. But I thought it was a really good fight, and I agree with you, Jackson. People are being way too harsh on Volk. I wanted to kind of open up the chat as well, maybe or the dialogue about what his future could be. But I think there are so many options for him that could be very like low risk, and he can still take to like have a good and still continue fighting, like a Sterling fight or maybe like a Movsar fight, which could be good to keep our boy Volk safe and get him back to a rematch in one piece whole, and so he's not coming off of a KO into this fight. It's a very dangerous guy like Ilia, which, to be honest, coming off of KO to go to fight Ilia is a massive risk.
Yeah, no, and there's a big chance that coming from a knockout and straight into rematch that it happens again. So that'd be 3 knockouts in a row at like 35. Yeah, that's definitely risking it. So yeah, I guess a Movsar Evloev or Aljo would be kind of how do you call it? Like a alley-oop? No.
Yeah,
right. A rebound fight.
A rebound, yeah. But no, I agree. I do think people are jumping the gun on Volk, but also on Topuria. And I know I am biased. I am kind of a hater. I did predict rather confidently that Volk would dominate him. Yeah, this is my Lucas Tracy moment. No, but obviously he looked good. He lost the first round, and but I mean he looked composed the whole time. He had a great adjustment. So you mentioned Toby, you mentioned the moment in the first round where he pushed Volk against the cage, and obviously we were all. I mean, my heart was pumping like, "God damn it, Volk, get out of there!" And what Volk usually does, and a lot of Ilia Topuria's opponents don't do, is clinch up when he gets too close and kind of just get out of there, right? And Volk did exactly that, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I thought he would be doing, and exactly what he needs to do. Now, in the last exchange, he tried to do this, but Ilia posted on his neck, and obviously, we know what happened.
Got
So
removed from conscious, joined the Ghost Club.
sad. Yeah, no, but now, while with that being said, Ilya looked great, but I've seen some people saying that he beats Islam Makhachev and shit. And okay, that's what I mean. When yes, he looked good. Yes, he just beat one of the greatest featherweights ever. But let's not get carried away.
Let's not jump the gun too much.
Exactly. I think some of the openings I talked about were still present this fight, and the only difference is, well, I argue that Volk just respected his power too much and didn't really capitalize. So I wonder who will. I don't know.
I will say, yeah, we had our conversation last time where we talked about if this fight was going to be close, but we both predicted that Volk was going to get hurt / dropped in the second round.
Yeah, that's
During
funny.
that podcast, we did both predict he was going to get knocked down. We did not expect him to get knocked out. However, we both did predict second round was going to go to Topuria.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it to end there, but when you watch, one thing Topuria did is he adjusted. As you said, in the first round when he saw Volk clinch with him, he adjusted to that, as you said, putting the hand on the neck to create distance, allowing him that one split second to throw that cross. And when we look at and looking at his past opponents, Volk's opponents not necessarily have adjusted like that. Islam did to a certain extent, but in the grappling, as you could see, he with Islam, you could see in their first fight that whenever Volk switched stances, he would shoot him for a takedown. So what he did was, and when he gave the tell that he was going to switch stances to throw, he didn't switch stances, which gave him perfect opportunity to throw that cross. So proof that Volk is very smart. However, this is the first time someone with genuine power he fought. Like, I wouldn't necessarily Yair has genuine power. He can knock people out, but not like Topuria.
A lot of it comes to technique for Yair, right?
Yeah.
Like and just speed.
Yeah. And I look at that, and that's one main reason I was worried, because Volk's got, I would say, an average chin. What do you think? What do you think, Taco?
I don't know. Yeah, Volk's chin, it's a bit of a weird one now. I think, especially after the Islam KO, that was just always the uncertainty of this fight, which is kind of unfortunate. I had my prediction, because I wasn't in the last video, it was also kind of very similar to your guys, like especially Jackson's. I kind of thought he would grind out like a decision, but like a close one with like him getting dropped as well. But I think I just kind of maybe underestimated, or maybe just kind of assumed that Volk would be able to get back up and be able to handle at least Ilia's power. But I mean, I think it's more of a question onto Ilia's power. And yeah, Volk is getting old, and I feel like we had, what's his face again, Luke, I can't remember the MMA journalist.
Luke Thomas?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Luke Thomas going over about that statistic, the over 35 one. And I mean, he just kind of, after the fight, he kind of seemed to be super into it. And it's kind of just like got me super depressed about, is it the age thing maybe? And it could be a factor. I don't know. But I mean, Volk has been showing that he's been constantly evolving up until the Islam fight, which is kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of thought like the age wasn't really a thing for Volk at that stage, Is it like an Aussie thing, You never know.
No. I agree actually. Yeah, that was the big question coming into the fight, and I guess it still is for many people. Was it the age? Was it the knockout? Was it the quick turnaround? I don't think it was any of these. Honestly, I thought Volk. Honestly, Volk looked great. Obviously not his best performance. He ended up being knocked out, but it came, in my opinion, it came to just game plan mistake where wherever or whenever Topuria threatened to throw big, he would just walk away. And Topuria thrives when your back is against the cage. So I think, full credit to Topuria, honestly.
Yeah, it was sad to see just Australia in the main event not do too well. Speaking of Australia, we did have a win in our column for us in the co-main from good old Bobby Knuckles himself, winning a decision against Paulo Costa. Now, I don't know about you guys. I'm looking here. The fight of the night apparently was given to Mackenzie Dern versus Lemos. I thought the co-main was the fight of the night. This fight was amazing.
I would agree with that.
I thought it was awesome, and I thought it was a great fight to have and a win to have for Bobby after the DDP fight, which was a lot of the mystery surrounding, like, oh my god, he's very chinny now, and that he got dropped by a jab. Like, it's just like everyone started to kind of use the recency bias against him, and that's like a major thing that a lot of the MMA community, I would say, is heavy wrong on, is that the heavy recency bias on that one. And it was good to see that he survived a absolutely devastating heel to that face and managed to still keep standing in the first round and then scrape into a good win where he showed great fundamental techniques of jabs. I think Bobby Knuckles has shown time and time again his double jabs are some of the most quick and effective tools in the middleweight division. And I think he just kind of just showed that he is at an elite level above middleweights when it comes from like the skill and technicality side of fundamentals of boxing, of his base of karate shows that he's got great kicks, but he wasn't able to land it, unfortunately, as much. But that calf kicks, however, was a completely different story in this fight, which he was landing successfully and just managed to really win a really good decision against a Costa that also looked really good and did not lose any kind of like hype or any kind of talk about him after this fight. I completely just forgot the word that everyone
Yeah, no, I was so happy to see that, honestly. I'm a big fan of Paulo Costa. I really like him, and I was very happy to see not only that he performed, but that despite the loss, he didn't lose too much stock because of how well he performed. And honestly, he even surprised me. I think both Jack and I predicted a decision win, right, for Bobby.
We did.
Yeah, no, but so in that regard, it went as expected, especially on Bobby's side. I don't think he surprised me too much, other than maybe the chin, although DDP hits hard. So, but Paulo, man, he well, the spinning kick, holy shit, that was, when has he done that with such beautiful technique? I don't even know. And his jab was amazing too. But like we talked about, something that was a big issue for Paulo was Whittaker's jab. Obviously, Bobby's jab is great, especially the double jab, as you said. But I was hoping that Paulo would maybe deal with it a little bit better, but he's not quite there yet. I thought it was a clear 29-28 for Bobby. But yeah, great fight, fun fight. I do think Paulo regressed a little bit in some aspects, but improved in others, which is kind of a bit odd. What do you think, Jack?
Well, yeah, I was a bit surprised because, as you said, he regressed in some areas. Paulo has been known, at least what I've seen from him, he's more of a what's the word, swarmer in boxing terms. He likes to throw a lot.
Yeah, a brawler.
Brawler. He he throws a lot of strikes and hopes one of them wins, like makes it through. In this fight, he was kind of throwing one strike at a time,
Right.
and that's played to Bobby's advantages. Bobby was throwing combos the entire time, and the combos over the one huge strike did it for Bobby, in my opinion. However, technical wise, when he was throwing those huge punches, they did look very nice. That head kick really did affect.
Yeah.
Really looked very good. And when I see what he's done very well. He had a long layoff like he did his last fight, and he did look better than he did versus Luke Rockhold, I will say, even though he did use a lot of the wrestling, which I went in thinking he was probably going to try to wrestle, and I do think Whittaker's wrestling isn't as good as people make it out to be. However, so I wouldn't have been surprised if he took down Whittaker. However, he looked amazing, but yeah, I had to give it to Bobby. I thought he won 29-28, and that was a great fight. I love that fight. And as you said, Taco, I agree. Should have been fight of the night.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I thought Paulo was gonna use more wrestling too, but I think him choosing not to made it more fun. So I'm not too sad about it. But enough about fun fights. So let's talk about Ian Garry and Neal. Geoff Neal.
The worst fight of the main card.
Oh my god, I don't want to talk too long about this one, but honestly, it went pretty much as expected. I thought, okay, we both predicted a decision for Ian. I think that was more of an easier pick. I did say it was 50-50 because Ian opens himself a lot when he is on the offense, but guess what? He just chose to point fight the entire fight, and Geoff Neal did nothing about it, even though his corner was desperately asking him to. So yeah, nothing. I don't have much to say about this one, honestly. Just boring.
Well, there was some very technical things that I did see in it. One thing is one read off of Ian Garry that Ian Garry saw on Geoff Neal is whenever Geoff Neal would throw, he would duck his head into the throw. So what Ian Garry started doing was throwing those knees up the middle, and eventually he caught it in the third round, and it looked good. A lot of people are saying Geoff Neal won. I personally did not think he won. A lot of people were calling robbery. This is where I believe Goose and I disagree. Goose, you had it round 1, Ian Garry, round 2, Geoff Neal, and round 3, Ian Garry, correct?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, yes.
I believe I had it round 1, Geoff Neal, round 2, Ian Garry, and round 3, Ian Garry. I thought it comes down to if that one big strike from Geoff Neal landed against the cage, which it in slow motion doesn't necessarily make it look like he did. However, Ian Garry didn't necessarily throw anything. However, I will say, I do believe Ian Garry won. What do you think, Taco?
No, yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I agree. It was like very much kind of funny that we've just gone from like the fight of the night to like probably the most lackluster fight of the night. It was like I think it was Neal did nothing and Ian did just a tiny bit more, and that was it. And it was just, and I felt like coming into this fight, I was kind of harping on a lot of people, especially in Discord as well, that like recency bias again. People are just being so high on Geoff Neal, man. Like, of course, the Luke win is great, and I thought he's been looking great in the last fights. But Neal has had tendencies to like freeze up in fights. He did lose to Neil Magny, bro. Like, and that fight was kind of like what I was coming into here is like when he fights those guys that are like a little bit more point fighter kind of style, and those guys that do want to stand kind of more at range, like it just kind of tends to be not really fun fights with him in those kind of scenarios, and he's very open to just being like one in that scenario. And he kind of frustrated me as well when he would clinch up sometimes, and I was like, man, you're the one that needs to put some more activity in this round, and he would just like put some hooks in there on the fence. I'm like, man, get off this scenario. This is not for you. But nah, I definitely was with you guys as well. I called the Neal and Garry decision as well because I wasn't really too high and mighty on Neal Magny. Like, I get that he's got the power, and unfortunately, it didn't seem that he could land. But that was the thing going to this fight, that Ian Garry could be hittable. I think Song Kanan was the one that dropped him,
Right.
and that was probably one of the greatest. I have a chip of it. I love it.
Moments of his career.
Yeah. My
Phenomenal.
favorite Ian Garry moment.
Exactly. And I mean, if Geoff Neal would hit something like that, I would have no doubt in my mind that Ian would be out. Let's be real. He would be out. And I think that was the question of the fight is, would Neal land it? And I just wouldn't see that Neal would land it. I thought he would struggle with how Ian's just a really great kicker and he'll just keep him at distance. And it's literally what the story of the fight was Ian keeping him at distance. And then the moment he would get close, he would clinch. So the fight was probably one of the most predictable fights I thought, to be honest. I didn't think...
I agree.
In that scenario. 100%.
Yeah, I had a 50-50, honestly, like when I was choosing, just because I like watching tape. Ian was so hittable in some moments that, yes, Neal struggles with like dynamic strikers that actually move, and they're not there to be hit, unlike Luke, sadly. I love Luke, but but yeah, no, I mean, it was predictable, especially if you watch the Wonderboy fight, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't have an answer for it.
Yeah.
Now, we've been talking 3 mainly striking matches. Let's talk about the grappling match that happened before this. The Merab versus Henry Cejudo fight. That fight went about what I expected. Round 1 was a lot closer than I was thinking. However, as you called Goose, Henry Cejudo did gas, which cost him the fight. Going into the wrestling of this one, on the more technical side, all of Merab's trips looked very well. However, everything else made me, as a wrestling fan, just cringe. It's whenever he had the single leg, he was just going for the trip, and you see many things. You see in the second round, he has the single leg, and he lets go of the single leg, and he tries to trip him, and then he lets go of the single leg and pushes Henry against the cage. And I'm just like, just knee tap Henry Cejudo. So you just knee tap him. Just push forward and knee tap him, and that will work. And gosh, for those who don't know what that is, when you have a single leg up in one hand, you use your other leg to touch the guy's knee to make it so he can't balance, and then push the guy over.
You mean your other arm?
Yeah, with your other arm, the one that's not holding the single leg. And you look at some other things, some scrambles. It was harder to watch, but it was funny at least to see him pick up Henry Cejudo and walk him over to
that's just sad to me.
The lizard himself. And then drop him. Zuck the lizard. But then striking wise, Henry Cejudo's arm did break in the third. I think.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
It was so swollen. When we went back and watched it, it was so swollen. But looking at that fight, Merab just overwhelmed him. The volume of his strikes did too much. We saw Triple C. He was throwing. He was throwing a lot more takedowns than I was expecting. He was shooting a lot more. In the fight, he didn't feint as much as I was expecting, and I think that cost him a bit in this fight. And when I look at Henry Cejudo's game plan, it's just he looked very good, but I think the cardio just got to him. And Merab used his EPO to win a decision win.
Yeah, I agree. I think someone said, Merab is like the most aptly named the machine fighter because it's kind of ridiculous. Zuck isn't a human, and he isn't also a human, it seems. Like, he just keeps going. I mean, this fight, the first round also, like, let's not forget, Henry did put Merab on skates for a bit, which was like awesome to see. But after
I loved it.
It was good to see that. And I think it was kind of like Merab in his striking when he tries to just swing, it just goes wrong all the time, half the time, especially. But it's just once he's got everyone so overwhelmed and gassed, and he's just constantly throwing these takedowns one after the other one. I could just imagine it must be the most exhausting thing to fight someone like him. I could not imagine the having to just constantly be like worrying that like if you throw even just like one kick, he's just gonna grab you, like he's gonna try and take you down immediately every time. Like Jackson said, I just watching that fight made me a bit like annoyed, knowing that Cejudo is a very intelligent person, and that like he wouldn't feint at least a knee. Like someone needs to feint a knee against Merab for the life of me, or at least just throw a knee against him whilst he's trying to take down. Because man, someone's gonna make him pay for a single leg or someone like that, or a double leg. Please, for the life of God. But yeah, I thought it was a really awesome fight, though. I feel like there's a lot of Merab haters out here that don't want to acknowledge that like his fights are pretty fun when he's just going after takedown after takedown. It's kind of just funny to watch, just like how like elite level people at UFC level deal with this kind of very easy to like see style before you're going into like you go into a Merab fight, you know what you're getting, and it feels weird that Henry of all people went in there and didn't really have the gas tank ready for a fight like Merab, or the style, or ready to even handle like the single leg into a trip and that kind of stuff, which is kind of weird for me, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'll interject just to say that I am like self-admittedly a Merab hater. I still don't like him, even though he has upped his social media game. But I will admit this fight was actually fun. I didn't really care who won beyond wanting to be right with my picks. But yeah, no, it was like pretty expected. I also think it was. I don't think. Well, one Merab has to be on beds. He just has. There's just no way you can look at me with a straight face and deny it, like that. You're sure it's not true. I'm already convinced. But yeah, the fight went as expected, except I did expect more feints from Henry, and I expected him to gas later than he actually did. I predicted the third round, and by the second round, he already looked a bit tired, as I recall. He did break his hand. He is 37 years old, and well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Henry would have done better if he was younger? Because I certainly do, but I don't know how much better.
I feel like it's a Jackson question. He knows all the Henry
the
prime wrestling technique and all
the wrestling stuff. I will say I think I think he probably would have done better. I think the couple years he laid off after he retired to Dominic Cruz to try and get that better contract just backfired on him, and he wasted a good 2.5 years of just waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I understand from the financial standpoint, because we saw how bad his pay is. That's
it is pretty bad, but I completely understand the pay side. However, if you're wasting the 3 years of your prime, and he was trying to get Dana to want him to come back, and knowing Dana opinion on Henry Cejudo, where he doesn't like him. I think the fact that he didn't even give Henry Cejudo a retirement segment was infuriating.
Yeah,
that just you're giving one of your two-time divisional champions no respect, and it's annoying. He did the same thing with GSP, and it annoys me. Not necessarily the same thing, but he disrespects GSP the same way. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll do a video shitting on Dana. I will argue even that he's not a good promoter. He's a good businessman, but a terrible promoter, because he actively works against his own fighters. But that's another conversation.
That's another conversation. One thing I will say, Taco, is I don't know if a knee is necessarily the smartest idea, because I think he's just going to play Algio and put his knee on the ground and just win an Oscar and try and get the DQ.
You never know,
Just
that's
a
true.
joke. Just a joke.
You can never
But
know.
yeah.
Barrow Longo crew, maybe.
But I mean,
Yeah, maybe.
feinting uppercuts worked amazingly for Volk on the first fight with Islam. I mean, he was feinting
Yeah.
showing it the uppercut all day, and that made Islam very reluctant to shoot because, well, obviously Volk has that timing. But don't you worry. Corey eventually will fight and knock out Merab. Trust.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you didn't care who won this fight. I'm like, I think you wanted Merab to win just so Corey can get that title shot, or Triple C. I mean, to win, so Merab doesn't get the title shot and Corey does.
Yeah, I am a bit of a hater. Not gonna lie, but it is what it is. Merab does deserve a title. Hate him as much as you want. He deserves it. You can't deny that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we want to talk about the
Yeah.
last fight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we both fail on this one, Jack.
We almost look good.
We almost, the first round was looking, I think, how we both expected. Just Anthony trying and failing takedowns, and it was going well until it wasn't. Basically, the second round right away. Kopylov or Kopylov made a mistake, got his ass on the ground, stood up and got taken down immediately, and that was the beginning of the end. That's really the story. I think he's just a bit too green, but I don't think he was fraud checked. I just think he just needs to improve his grappling, and he'll be back in the. Well, he'll crack the top 15 eventually. His striking is just too good not to, and he has time. As for Anthony,
one thing is, Kopylov, or however you say his name, did fight on a week's notice, I believe. Might have been 2 weeks. Might have been 2 weeks. That. So it was a short notice fight. I don't think it was a week. I think it was like 2 weeks. So
that's also true.
That does affect. So keep going.
I forgot what. But the other thing I want to say is that yes, Anthony Hernandez has good grappling, but I feel like now, I think the narrative now will be that he fraud checked Kopylov, and now he's like, oh, a really good grappler that'll shake up the division. I don't think so. I think people are gonna overrate him. He's gonna be the favorite. His next fight or two, and then he's gonna lose. And I will be proud of predicting that. Maybe, hopefully. But anyway.
Yeah, going into the fight, I was not I would say super well versed with Fluffy. I would say I was definitely a lot more like versed with Roman Kopylov and like what he's been doing right now. I think for me, when I've like kind of been thinking of Fluffy, like the things that come in my mind is that loss to Kevin Holland. I know it's a while ago. It's just in my mind. But then I also wasn't really too high and mighty on his last kind of opponents and that kind of stuff. I think he's been fighting like his last fights for Edmund Shabazz, Mark Andre Barrios. Like I'm not really super high and mighty on those fellas. But he does seem to have a lot of his success when he's just kind of chaining and they're constantly going for his takedowns. And I thought Roman Kopylov would have a lot more success and be able to stop those takedowns and just keep at the body. It seems to me that Kopylov, like he was able to land very effectively onto the body, but he just wasn't landing as much as I would expect. And then, his just ground game did not really look to be able to handle what Fluffy has really, and that it was so badass that once he got the second rear naked choke cinched up in there, and once he knew he had it, he did like the little nod there with the smile. That was a hella good like moment.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, it looked awesome, and I feel like everyone kind of liked to see like someone ending with like "ov" in their last name, like losing by sub, and kind of like they love to see those kind of Eastern Europeans. I know Jackson was like, yeah, or something like that.
You know my hate of those. No, it's not necessarily. I'll get into that later. Keep going.
It doesn't apply for Kopylov, though, I would say, because Kopylov is like mainly a striker, which is awesome to see. And yeah, definitely in this fight, I would say I wasn't very well versed with Fluffy, but he made me a fan for sure. I really love to see that personality, especially when it comes to people who are more like grappling versed. Like a lot of those grappling people really don't help themselves from like a marketing or like making themselves like more like presentable for the UFC fighters.
What?
But like, you know,
I love Bilal.
yeah,
But he's the GOAT.
exactly. But no, yeah, I liked the finish, and the fight was really good. I enjoyed it, and the finish was great.
Yeah, going into this fight, I predicted that Kopylov was going to have great takedown defense and be able to stuff everything, which he did do for the majority of the fight. It's until he got that one takedown, which when we looked at it, when they were on the fence, Kopylov threw a kick and he stepped back and his heel hit the cage and then with Hernandez pushing on him, it just had him collapse. He did get up from that, and then Hernandez took him up or took him down. No, not up. He got up and then got taken down. However, that was definitely the beginning of the end. And looking at the striking, Kopylov looked very good. However, Hernandez also looked pretty good. I believe he hurt Kopylov on the feet at one point. Well, at least he had him backing up pretty fast. When looking at this fight beforehand, it went exactly as I thought. Round one, defending takedowns and throwing. And I remember I'm like, I'm a genius for this fight. And then round two came back, and I'm like, I'm an idiot.
I fought with Volk.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a good fight. I will say Hernandez is probably going to have to fight Ikram again, which is going to be sad or be scheduled to fight Ikram because that was who he was scheduled before he fought Kopylov. He was scheduled to fight Ikram. I don't think he would have the same success against Ikram, given that he's I want to say a 3 or 4 time Sambo world champion. Now getting into Russians,
that badly to Islam, to Kamzat as well, right?
Yeah, right. You know, he
seems like that's his claim to fame for me for Ikram is just he didn't lose that badly in the
he didn't lose that badly.
However, wasn't he the one that got knocked out by the uppercut, by the
Yes.
super epic uppercut?
Yeah, that was on like every edit.
Right. So he's clean to fame. I mean, I don't know. He has done fine in the UFC. Pretty good. Pretty exciting.
His first fight, I definitely called him overrated as he was throwing strikes and falling down against Phil Haas. But his fight after that, he looked very good, and people were even claiming he's a better striker than Hamza, which during that fight he did look very good. So I am definitely an Ikram fan. Now, getting into Russians, as Taco brought it up. As an American wrestling fan, our big rival is Russia.
That's funny.
Which we are now favored in the Olympics to beat. Russian fans. Americans favored. Eat that. We beat you at Worlds last year. Eat it.
Let's go.
But it's mainly just one camp in Russia that I dislike, and that camp is the Khabib Nurmagomedov camp. Hamzat doesn't bother me much, and neither do most of the other Russians.
Yes, people will learn eventually.
People will learn, and Russia's no longer on top for wrestling. Eat it.
Hopefully in MMA either soon.
Don't worry, Umar's gonna lose soon. He's gonna lose to whoever unranked guy.
Dude, he's fighting a Can next. There's no way he loses his next fight.
It would be really funny when he loses.
So overall, guys, what did we think of the card and as a whole?
Hot take, but the prelims were better than the main card.
Oh, you're talking about Mackenzie Dern against Lemos? Yeah, that was great. A great fight. Part of the night for sure. I think I know what Dana White was thinking when he picked that one.
I will say physics were physicking during that fight.
Right. Yeah. No. It was a good card. A very fun. Really, the only bad fight was Neal versus Garry, or Ian. And obviously the depressing outcome of the main event. But other than that, it was great.
I will say prospect of the night as Zhang Mingyang KO round 1 to Brenson Ribreer. That was did you guys see that one?
Yes,
I
see
missed
that.
it actually.
I know Taco saw it, but he looked very good. He's a light heavyweight. KO'd his opponent round 1 with good combo, and he looked very good.
Yeah, one of the best finishes of the night, I would say, for sure, 100%.
Definitely.
It's kind of hard to like kind of make this like make your standprint for like the card, especially as a prelim fighter. But I thought that was one of the best finishes of the night, up there with the main event finish for sure.
Definitely.
In that kind of sense. But fellas, next time we see each other, maybe we'll be talking about this next card that is in Mexico, this UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Rival 2.
Hell yeah.
Up until then, though, fellas, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us. Thank you for listening. Remember,
be sure to
everyone
like and subscribe.
Watching, like and subscribe.
Yes. Thanks for watching if you made it all the way through.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Until the next
Dear fellas.